have this. And so I'm just grateful for you all to be here. But I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about letting God revise your life. Letting God revise your life. And we've heard so much about destiny and just things like that, but do we really understand what it takes to actually get to the destiny? When we talk about getting there, when we talk about reaching that level of success, when we talk about walking in purpose, do we really understand what has to occur in order for us to do that? Some of us just think that it's all about seeking God for the promise and positive thinking and quoting affirmations, and while all of that stuff is great, that's not what it takes to actually get to your destiny. There is a process. Everybody say process.
Process.
That it takes in order for you to get to a destiny, an expected end. And so when I've always been a child that loved to read and write. Even when I was very little, my mom will tell you I have hundreds of books now, probably maybe even close to 1,000 books, literally. I have books in storage. I have books all in my home. I have books stacked around the walls in my house. I literally have that many books. And I did that as a child, too. Like, you know, the scholastic reader thing?
Yes.
Like, seriously, like, kids would be asking for money for candy. I would be asking money for book fairs, to go to the book fair. Like, I really love books. I've always had a knack for writing, I guess, writing well, but that's not, as a child, like, being a good writer is not something you brag about. Like, if you're not in athletics, like, you don't brag and be like, I got a 4 on my TOS test, you know, writing portion of my TOS test. Like, that's not something you brag about to kids, but I've always had an affinity for writing and reading. And so this concept of what I'm about to talk about today, about letting God revise your life, or the process of revision, is something that became apparent, and God opened my eyes to it when I began to work on my very first book, which is My Best Year Ever, and I actually have some over there, and I'm going to give some away after this. And so what is revision? And when we break down the word revision, we have two parts to that. We have re, and then we have vision, meaning to see again, to see it again. And so are you looking at your situation with fresh eyes? Are you still looking at the same old situations? And so when we talk about revision, meaning that we have to see our situation again and see our situation another way. And so when we look at the writing process, I'm going to stick with that. When we look at the writing process, it has many stages. And so in order for the story and in order for the plot or whatever that is to move forward to the different stages, then we have to have revision. The revision process is what helps it move from stage to stage, from faith to faith, and I'm going to get there. We talk about reworking the story, restructuring it, removing some things, eliminating unnecessary details. I'm talking about allowing God to revise your life. And so when God wants to grow you, when God wants to move you into your next season, when God wants to move you to another level, whatever level you're on now, when God gets ready to, when you're done on this level, God wants to take you to another level, He has to edit your life, or He has to revise your life to help you move out of where you are now. He may have to delete some unnecessary things, or He may have to rework a situation, or He may have to restructure a situation. You see, what happens is when we ask God to do things for us and we say, God, oh, use me, do you really want to be used? Do you really want to do what it takes in order to be used by God? Because, see, God is not just going to give you character because you ask for it. See, God is going to place you. You say you want character. Well, God is going to place you in situations that force you to develop the character that you're asking for. You say, well, God, give me more patience. Well, God is not just going to give you more patience. God is going to put you in situations that require you to be long-suffering with somebody that you know don't like you. God is going to require you to put you in these situations where you have to do things that go against all of your level of comfort, and that pull you so far out of your comfort zone so you don't know how you're going to ever regain ground. And so God is not just going to give you the thing that you're asking for. And so there is no, and we have to realize that when we talk about the writing process and when we tie it into God revising your life, see, sometimes we look at our life like a rough draft, and we look at it like that. And then we say, well, God, okay, well, if I'm still in this process, then when am I going to get to this place? Well, you have to understand that when it pertains to God, there is no final draft.
There's no final draft. Come on.
As long as you're here in this mortal body on this earth, there is no final draft, because life is going to be a constant revising process. Life is going to be a constant revising process. You're never going to, some of us are waiting to arrive. Well, I'm here to bust your bubble. You're not going to ever arrive. God is going to constantly constantly be working on you, moving you towards something that fits within His will.
That's right.
And so it's important, and Dr. Ellison kind of touched on this, but it's so important that we as women, when we talk about this final draft and that thought of a final draft for just our life as a process in general, that life is lived in seasons.
Yes.
Life is lived in seasons. And sometimes that's what we talk about. When we talk about purpose, I think words like purpose and all that become very cliche, and we don't even really know what that is.
Yes.
And so ultimately our purpose is, Isaiah 43:7 says, we were created for His glory. That's your purpose. So again, when we talk about living our life in seasons, we have to understand what season. When was the last time you asked God, what season am I in right now?
Yeah. Come on.
What season am I in right now? Because that's how you know what I need to be giving my time to and what I don't need to be giving my time to. What season am I in? What are you having me to do right now? Because see, what we don't understand is, and this is how a lot of people get tripped up to feel purposeless. They don't feel like they have a purpose, or when it's time to move into a new season, then they feel like they don't have a purpose anymore if they're not in this season. Maybe you did hear God and feel God in another season. But see, when we find ourselves always trying to get back to where we felt God in one season, that means you're not growing and moving forward.
That's right.
So when was the last time you asked God, what season am I in? Because what happens is sometimes we stay in things and we go through things and we develop an identity around this thing. And so when God is trying to move us into something new, we feel like we can't move out of it because that thing has become our identity.
Yeah.
And it's our purpose. That's what we tell ourselves. It's my purpose. And so one thing I've seen, and I love statistics, and one of the statistics that I love is the fact that the highest rate of accidents is between teenagers and elderly people. I'm going to say it again. Teenagers and elderly people. Now, why is that important to seasons? Because it can be very dangerous when we look at teenagers when they get something and they don't understand what they have in their hands. Yes. They're not mature enough. They have not reached the maturity level to understand what has been instilled or installed into their possession. Yes. And then you have the elderly people that when you stay in something too long, past your time, when it's time for you to give that thing up and get from behind the wheel, you end up causing more harm than good because you're staying in something that you should be out of.
Come on.
What season am I in? What season am I in? Because that's going to make all the difference in you being effective. Now, you can contend with God and you can say, God, no, this is what I'm going to do. We have so many single women that are striving to get to a married season that they never maximize their single season. So when God, they finally do get slick willy and they go get it, then they're resentful because they never did fulfill their purpose and fulfill the opportunities that can only be fulfilled in your single season. You don't maximize it. What season am I in? Because every season has a purpose. Because some of our single women, I'm going to deal with this because I feel led to. Some of us look at marriage like varsity and singleness like JV. But both are varsity. Both are varsity. Yeah. Wow. We're trying to strive towards something.
Yes.
So, what season am I in? And so there are times when God will remove some things that we feel like we needed in order for us to develop the courage and the faith to move into the next season.
That's right.
I'm going to say that again. There will be times when God will remove the thing you thought you needed. The thing you think you cannot live without. In order for you to be forced to develop the character you need to be able to sustain on the next level. You see, if you don't work out, you will not have the strength. You will not develop strength unless you're put in a place to where you're able to work out that muscle. So God will remove some of the things, the crutches that we have in order for us to develop our own strength. Elder Smith kind of hit on that. We need to develop and start loving ourselves and what we bring to the table. Because see, some of us are placing our value on what somebody else says about us and letting them tell us what we bring to the table instead of us allowing God to edit our life and revise our life and allowing Him to remove those things and edit out those things that don't serve our growth. You see, when you build a brand new building, when you build skyscrapers, they have what's called scaffolding. Has anybody ever seen a scaffolding? Now, see, when we look at scaffolding on the building, Dr. Ellison is just out the chain. When you have scaffolding, a scaffolding structure is not meant to stay there. Does it serve a purpose? Absolutely. It serves a purpose, but it's only serving a purpose for a certain amount of time to get you where you need to be, and once this job is done, it's out of there. It's only used for a certain time and then it's removed. So some of us are looking at some of these bad relationships, and we even know that, again, all things work together. So even some of the things that have happened to us that haven't been so great, they're all working as scaffolding. You need it to get built up. You need it to get built up. I want you to catch what I'm saying. But it's not meant to stay there. It's not a part of the permanent structure. See, some people are only a part of your history, but they were never designed to be a part of your destiny. God will remove some things in order to force you to grow up. Now, I'm a Mac user. I love iPhones, everything Apple-ish, everything of Apple nature. I have a Mac laptop. And on a Mac laptop, when I'm working on something and I want to delete a document, I can delete a document, but it's not actually gone from my computer until I empty the trash.
Right.
I'm going to say it again. I can delete a document, but it's not actually gone until I empty the trash. What am I saying? God will remove it, but it's up to us to delete it.
That's good.
I don't have nobody. God will remove it. Remember I said God will edit some things out, but free will. So this is where I'm going with this. Are you checking with me? God will remove it, but it's up to us to delete it.